Guys, this is the Morbius after credit scenes explained. Welcome back to the Jersey Comic Crew. Chris and Rob here as always, and we're going to discuss and try to explain to the best of our abilities the 2 after credit scenes after Morbius. So this is your spoiler warning. If you haven't seen Morbius, definitely see it before watching this video. So Rob, why don't you take us away? Tell us about these after credit scenes, and let's see if we can break this down and figure it out.
So the after credit scenes for Morbius focus on a familiar MCU character. So first after credit scene, we see a giant purple rift open in the sky, which is a direct indicator that this is right after the end of No Way Home, where Doctor Strange breaks the universe, essentially puts it back together again. Now, while that's happening, we focus on the jail cell, and then flickers in and out. There's Adrian Toomes, the Vulture. He comes into the Morbius universe, which is the Venom universe, the whole Sonyverse, and he's trapped there. So after we see him in the jail cell, and we see the news clicks on, and then this reads that Adrian Toomes is in prison. He's gonna get let out. He's not supposed to be there. Then we cut to the second after credit scene, which really felt like this should have just all been one scene. We see the Vulture is now flying with his fantastic new suit that he was able to build in this universe, meets up with Michael Morbius, and says, hey, this is probably because of Spider-Man. I think guys like us could team up together and work something out. And Morbius says, interesting, and then the credits roll. So after watching these scenes, Chris, what was running through your mind?
Confusion. I was very confused as to why this even needed to happen. But the news bulletin focused on him, not the giant purple rift in the sky.
Yeah, why would you focus on the rift, man?
Which, I mean, hey, it's New York, it happens. Yeah. You know, there's things happen
every
all the
other
time.
week. There's
what
a new rift in the sky. What are you gonna do about it?
Hey, well, forget about it. So that and Adrian Toomes somehow built a new suit without that Chitauri weaponry, without that MCU kind of major background story. So Rob, those were like the things I just caught that were out of place to me in those 2 scenes. But I want to know, like, what did you think seeing it? Was there anything else that stuck out? Were there little things that just didn't make sense to you?
It wasn't necessarily the little things that didn't make sense to me. It started when I saw these 2 characters interact, the puzzle pieces start being compiled in my mind, right? The first thing I'm sure on my mind and everybody else's mind was like, all right, the Sinister Six. Maybe they're setting up a new bad guy team. They're all working together. But the fact that like Adrian Toomes, the Vulture, is such a scientific genius. One, he's let's say he's able to rebuild the Vulture suit without the Chitauri tech because he was able to do it one time already. Let's say he's just that smart, and he knows that Spider-Man is the cause for this. So he's like, okay, maybe he's gonna team up with Morbius because of Morbius's intelligence and find a way back into the main MCU. And maybe when they do that, things are going to change, right? So I'm thinking it's less Sinister Six and more like, all right, scientists are going to work together to bridge a gap between the 2 worlds to go back into that universe. That's kind of where my mindset was going. It was just a little strange to me that he would end up in this universe and like Eddie Brock didn't stay in that universe and he had to come back. You know, I thought it was like, you can't have your cake and eat it too, but I guess they can.
So I'm glad you mentioned that because that's the biggest thing on my end that I'm confused about because Vulture does not belong in this universe.
Correct.
There was a lot of confusion. There's a lot of stuff going on with the director and spoiling the film. We'll get to that in our second video. We will discuss that. But there's a quote he made about the rift at the end of No Way Home, saying that characters were able to go back and forth through that rift. That's not true.
Yeah.
The rift itself was done by Doctor Strange to make sure anyone who knew Peter Parker's identity forgot it. It was to send the characters that didn't belong in the MCU back, right? That's why Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, all the villains, Doc Ock, Green Goblin, all of them went back to their separate Sony universes. And Adrian Toomes should have been affected the way, you know, Doctor Strange himself was affected, right? We know Spider-Man exists, but there's no Peter Parker. We don't know who Peter Parker is. He doesn't exist. There's no reason that Adrian Toomes should be in that universe and stuck in that universe, besides the fact that, you know, Daniel Espinosa just didn't understand the full extent of the MCU's situation with how Doctor Strange ended that movie.
The only thing, like, to give them the benefit of the doubt, and maybe it got cut because of Sony, whatever that was, what if Adrian Toomes was originally from this universe and found a way to come into this universe? Like, let's pretend that's a thing. If that's what happened, him coming back makes a lot of sense. But if that is the situation that you're going to like ride home about, then Adrian Toomes should have been maybe a bigger part to play in the Morbius movie. Maybe Adrian Toomes could have been the villain and like the movie could have started out with like, or like in the beginning, like he gets transported into this. And then you have these 2 flying people going back at each other. Like one that creates an MCU Sony bond without necessarily doing that. And plus it allows Michael Keaton to like be a star in a movie. And everybody loves Michael Keaton. He does fantastic work. And that would have been made for a more cohesive story. And then at the end, you could have had the Morbius friend set up for Morbius 2 if they were doing something like that. I think that would have been the way if their reasoning is that he's from this universe to begin with. If it's not, I don't know what they're doing. And if he is, why not explain that to us? And why wait a whole nother movie for him to be like, yeah, I was originally part of this universe, but I figured it out and got away from here. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case. I think he's from the MCU.
Yeah.
Like Homecoming solidified that, right? Like the whole movie was about Vulture. He had a family. Like Liz was his child. That was the big, giant shift in Homecoming. I think it's just a blunder on Sony and the director and the creators of this movie that they didn't understand the rift in No Way Home, and millions of us fans and other creators understood it. So, it feels like it was thrown in to push the Sinister Six agenda that Sony's been trying to get off the ground forever, right? You have Morbius, you have Venom. They're clearly making that Craven movie. They're doing a couple other things in the background. We know Madam Web's the last one.
It seems to me like this Madam Web movie is going to be the Sony's version of Flashpoint. That's their chance to kind of rewrite their history and fix everything to make it either connect with the MCU or not, or like do a status quo reset, because I think we're all in agreement it's not as good as it could be, especially after this movie. And I feel like they need a course correction to be on par with MCU, or at least close to it, because you have all these fantastic characters. Like, if these characters were done quote unquote correctly, these have very high potential to do well. And I think Madam Web is their like saving grace. Like, okay, Madam Web's here. We're gonna get as many people we can on this project to fix everything so we could have a new status quo and move forward. Because Venom, maybe not the best movies. There's a lot of highlights in that. Morbius, maybe not the best movie, but that character has a lot of highlights and you can do a lot of cool things with them. And then all those other characters that you've listed that they're going to get their own solo movies, there's a lot of like source material that can make these characters fantastic. So there is potential here, Chris. It's just they need to do it the right way. And I'm in the hopeful seat that Madam Web, much like Flashpoint for DC, is going to be that saving grace to allow them to course correct and do the right thing. Because if these after credit scenes are any indicator of the future, it's not looking too bright for me.
I'm on the absolute opposite side of what you said before, because I base my stuff in realism, and what I've seen is this, right? And this is a movie that made Venom 2 look like Winter Soldier. Like, I'm not saying I have absolutely no hope, but I'm not going into Sony movies the way I go into MCU movies, right? Yeah. I'm not going to go into a Sony movie that is strictly in the Spider-Verse for, obvious business reasons, that I'm thinking, okay, this is going to build up. Is there hope for Madam Web? Absolutely. But to me, it seems like this agenda is now shifted since No Way Home. I think this is like a Sinister Six agenda moving forward, and possibly getting a Sony-only Elseworld universe Spider-Man in their midst. And I think they're trying to push towards Andrew Garfield, maybe an Amazing Spider-Man 3. I hope they do something positive, because I don't want them to throw Andrew Garfield or him to throw himself back into a role where the script, the plot, the everything isn't good, and we're back to where we started about 7 years ago with this character.
Yeah, then are we gonna have like just two Spider-Mans at one time? Like, we're gonna have we're gonna have Tom Holland and Andrew.
Bring Toby back.
Two different universes. Maybe bring Toby back, right? And it's like cool, but they're just both Spider-Man, right? And they're both doing their own storylines. It's like, sure, you could do that, but it's just you're trying to have your cake and eat it too, and it's just putting a little bit of a sour taste in our mouth. It's probably just for money. But guys, that is our explanation and outline details of what the after credit scenes mean for the Morbius movie. Let us know down in the comments below what you thought of the movie and what you thought of the after credit scene.
And guys, thanks so much for watching. Give us a thumbs up, really helps the channel out a lot. If you're new, subscribe, turn on those notifications. You do not want to miss any more of our coverage. Our next Morbius video is going to be a little different than our normal movie stuff. You do not want to miss it. No. And if you miss anything, check it right here on the channel. And as always, my name is Chris Heller. That is Rob Moran with the Jersey Comic Crew, and we'll see you next time.